Let's talk about the markets, because it's been quite good since Trump got in. Well, he's not in yet, but already he's having the effect. Now, if you do investing in the market correctly, it's all about living in the future, making smart predictions. So before we get to that bit, the first thing I need to talk about is how the Democrats spent $1 billion on this election. A lot of that would have been on polling companies, who yet again got it entirely wrong. Just entirely wrong. Remember all those polls? All neck and neck, too close to call.
One could suggest that perhaps the polls are just ad spending by another means. As in, they're suggesting a certain candidate does a lot better than they actually do.
Yes.
Consistently in the same direction.
Yes, but you've got these news companies spending tens of millions on political polls. And they were yet this election. I mean, I can't remember an election when they actually got them right.
Yeah,
consistently wrong.
I think that political pollsters are now in competition with the weatherman for who can continually get things wrong and still have a job at the end of it.
I did a segment a few weeks back. Just look at the money market ones, just the betting ones. You don't need to spend any money on your own polling, though that's should be relatively accurate.
Yeah, I understand.
They were more accurate, weren't they?
Well, yeah, much more.
I mean, speaking of accurate, I'll show you my tweet that I put out before. Well, this one I put out afterwards. That's the actual result. And what I'm linking to there is my earlier tweet that went out before the election, which was exactly correct.
Give yourself a pat on the back.
Exactly correct.
Everyone pat yourself on the back for Dan.
Well,
solidarity.
Yes. and for this reason, I can exclusively announce today that Lotus Eaters is starting a new business, Lotus Eaters Political Polling. Right. So the premise of this business is next time you're about to drop 10 million quid on a poll, we will do it 75% off and actually give you the right answer. So if you are a major news corporation or a political campaign, check out political polling.
Please do donate as well, because we spent a lot of our budget on that graphic. I mean,
yes, no expense was spared on that. Comic Sans as well. Right. So where did all that money go? I mean, so for example, this is it was a Las Vegas dome thing that apparently is quite expensive.
It's the Democrat Death Star, isn't it?
Something like that. I mean, it's horrendous as it is. I'm sure it's quite spectacular because that's you can see the buildings that it's next to. It's absolutely huge, that thing.
Could you imagine living near that and seeing a giant Kamala Harris?
Well, if you live near that, you would be living on the Strip in Las Vegas. So I mean, you would already be in a weird situation.
That's true.
But yes,
fair, I'll give you that.
But Kamala was spending $450,000 a day on that.
Wow. Didn't they outspend Trump by about 3-1 this election?
Oh, yeah. A huge amount of money they spent on it. Money that they could have spent on our merch store.
Seamless.
Slick.
Seamless.
We've still got some Trump merch up.
I think this is the last day for some of it, actually.
Oh, is it? Yes. Yeah, I know it's going very soon. So if you want to get the last bits of the Trump merch, my favourite T-shirt isn't on there, but on that little selection there. But there was some fantastic merch to have there. So the Democrats, they spent $1 billion to run the world's worst candidate. Instead, what they could have got on was the Trump trade. So the Trump trade was basically what I was doing beforehand. I did have one bet. I did have a bet. I bet that Trump would win the popular vote.
That's quite an outlier vote, to be fair.
Yeah, I got 5-1 on that.
Oh, that's not bad. Yeah,
which I thought I was hoping for better, so I didn't put a huge amount on, but decent.
Not bad.
So yeah,
that's all right.
There's a holiday right there, which is nice. So I got not only every single state right, I got the popular vote right as well. So remember that when you're thinking about spending your next 10 million on polling. Anyway, so the Trump trade was basically what I was actually mostly doing, which is which stocks, assets, and so on are going to respond positively to Trump, and then backing those to the hilt. It's you can get a lot more going in the markets. So let's check out the Trump trade. How did that do? How did everything respond to President Trump becoming once again President Trump? Well, this is let me just change that to 5-day. So this is DXY. It's basically the dollar. So this is how the dollar does against a basket of other currencies. Now, without even having to read the dates at the bottom, I think you can guess the day of the election from that chart.
You can, can't you?
So dollar was up markedly after Trump's win was confirmed in exactly the way that I said it would be. You could almost say that the dollar became unburdened by what had been.
So, sorry, is that against a number of currencies? I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, the DXY.
The dollar against...
it's kind of a basket of other stuff against the dollar. So it's a good way of tracking the dollar DXY. So, and that is...
Usually it's done in pairs, isn't it?
Yeah.
Forex is nearly always in pairs, but... Okay.
Yeah, but no, that's a good way to get a broad idea of dollar strength. What else did well? Well, there's the stock market. It's up more since... But basically, green boxes means it's going up. Red boxes means it's going down. Now, play along at home. Can anyone spot a red box?
I was just looking. Is there a single one?
No, doesn't seem.
It's a shame Google grew a significant amount because they were the main donor to Kamala Harris.
Well, there are unfortunate aspects to that. But then you might look at Tesla, for example. Which was, of course, rather aligned.
You're long in Tesla.
14.94.
Just a bit, yeah. Yeah, just a bit.
How did they spend $1 billion, though? It's like Brewster's Millions. Like, it's difficult. Yeah. It's difficult to have spent that much.
Oh, Brewster's Millions was an amateur compared to Kamala. In fact, you could almost say that the stock market became unburdened by what has been. So yes, that was rather good. Political pundit in the UK, one that I happened to notice, Tim Walker. He's saying here, I don't know if is he the editor of the Mirror or something? I don't know what he is, but some twat burger. But anyway, so he's saying, I might have this very badly wrong, but I think this front page reflects the mainstream view across all voters on this side of the Atlantic. So what's the Mirror saying? They're basically saying, have they done it again? And they're saying that uncertainty and fear rockets by staggering US election results. So,
well, the fact that the mainstream reacted that way is part of the reason why Trump was elected in the first place, right?
Yeah, well, yes, there is
that. But we hate you, mainstream.
But on the point of fear and uncertainty increases, Tim's worried that he might have got this badly wrong. He has got this badly wrong, you see, because you can actually measure fear and uncertainty. Financial markets price that.
It was the main driving force of many markets, isn't it?
Well, no, you can literally price it with the VIX index. So this is, let's go down to VIX index. So this is basically measuring volatility, but we can call it fear and uncertainty in the market. And again, without having to bother to read the dates across the bottom, can you tell the day of the election from that chart?
Yes.
Fear and uncertainty drops like a stone. So yes, Tim Walker, you did get it wrong. So you could almost say that fear and uncertainty became unburdened by what has been.
Just like equity markets, or is that?
Oh, it's
foreign exchange. Like, is that across everything, or what is that? I've never heard of the VIX index before.
It might take a while to get into, so I might swing back to that. But but just to think of it as a measure of volatility as a whole, right? So. What else can we say became unburdened by what has been? Oil futures, crude oil futures, they dropped because, of course, Trump might actually do a bit of oil. Actually, Biden has been doing a lot of oil because basically he turned a volte-face after he realised that he desperately needed oil prices lower. But OPEC, for example, so MBS in Saudi Arabia hates Biden with a passion. So... he's going to turn on the taps as well. So energy prices are coming down, so that's rather good.
Interesting to see what Aramco, their equity price, and the price of a barrel.
Yeah.
Sort of Saudi oil.
Spot price.
It's gone down.
I don't know what's happened to spot, but futures have definitely come off.
Because the Saudis have sort of pinned themselves to bricks, haven't they? So I don't know whether they're going to be... I imagine they're probably playing both sides, as the Saudis often do. But... it would be interesting to see which way it goes when Trump's actually in office, whether they're going to voluntarily lower their prices. Because last time they were quite friendly with a Trump presidency.
I'm pretty sure they will. And
of course, Trump had the precedent of making America energy independent as well.
Yes,
in his presidency.
Yeah, I mean, well, whether you can do that with a oil price which is probably headed to 40, with fracking being the marginal thing that kind of turns off around 50-60. I don't know, but yes, that is an interesting discussion to have. Gold was up before the election, basically because it's good with uncertainty and that sort of thing. You're going to get debasement of currency, and but that went down afterwards, largely as a result of the sort of volatility coming down, and there being faster horses.
Do you think gold has been inflated for a while, sort of unnaturally inflated, if anything?
Oh well, no, I mean, if anything, on its intrinsic value, I would say gold is well under.
Oh, really? Okay.
But there are faster horses that you can back if you're trying to get something which covers you from currency debasement, which I am
Godfrey Blooming
coming to at this point.
Silver is massively underpriced. Yes, this is massively underpriced.
Yeah.
When I see all the markets go green like that, all of them,
yeah,
it makes me think it's less that you're returning to a reality rather than it was just it was in a fug the whole time under the. So it's not like Trump has done anything proactively amazingly brilliant. It's rather the markets have returned to what they should have been all along.
Well, a bit like Joe Biden. Have you seen Joe Biden after the election? He's bouncing around like an 18-year-old. He's so happy. You should go and watch the speech that he gave when he was talking about the election. I mean, he couldn't stop grinning. So, I mean, how does that work? Have these drugs they've been giving him for the last 5 years actually been doping him?
Well, the person who usurped him lost. Yes. And I think he might be taking some joy in it.
Oh, I bet he was sat there on election night with his tub of ice cream and a MAGA hat on, just cheering.
He must personally resent Kamala and the cabal who put her in place, whether it's Pelosi and Schumer or whoever it was. He must resent them.
We deliberately
no way he wouldn't.
Stitched her up quite a few times.
Seems to be.
So.
Seems to be deliberate. It's difficult not to come to that conclusion.
Well, maybe Biden was on the Trump trade as well. But there's two particular trades that I want to talk about. Two that I'm quite large in, and that I pushed particularly hard on Brokenomics. These being Tesla, which I was pushing on Brokenomics when it was about 120 a share. I actually bought it at 12 myself, but it's had a good run. And the other thing I was pushing as hard as I could, I was begging people to buy Bitcoin when it was 16,000 a Bitcoin, and that was just 18 months ago. So I did a whole bunch of Brokenomics episodes on that, trying to get people over the line with that. How has Tesla reacted? Let's start with that one, because of course Elon Musk was all in. He was thoroughly committed. I mean, to the point where he might actually have gone to jail if Trump lost. So how does an Elon Musk company respond to a Trump win? Well, let's just put that on the 5-day as well.
It's one of the main companies that went up, weren't they? As in, they went up the most.
There we go. So beginning of the chart is election, and I mean, you can see. I mean, it was still 8% on Friday. It looks like it's going to be at least 7% today, and 14% on the first day. And I can't remember how much on the second and third day.
You put it to a month. Is that?
That's all very well and good, and it looks nice and healthy. But do you not think it's over?
Yeah, okay.
You not think it's inflated now, though?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I think this is going to be one of the most valuable companies in the world.
Okay.
I think anything that's attached to Elon Musk at the minute is going to be turned to gold. From his trajectory is not slowing down.
Now I know this is a different company, but it's still an Elon Musk company. But SpaceX, for example, the DOJ, the Department of Justice, launched a major lawsuit against SpaceX because they weren't hiring any illegal immigrants. And the reason that SpaceX weren't hiring any illegal immigrants is because it is literally illegal for them to hire illegal immigrants. And the Department of Justice obviously knew that, but they simply wanted to throw hundreds of lawyers at him simply for the purpose of messing with Elon. So the federal government risk to Elon Musk companies dropped off a cliff. So you can see why Tesla, for example, is absolutely booming. And of course, he's simply not going to have to dedicate whatever percentage of his time and all of his senior staff to fighting off the federal government in all of his companies.
You think it's going to the moon? Can you click on all for us?
Yes, let's go to all. So that was when I first bought in, somewhere around.
It's quite volatile, though, isn't it? You've got to admit it's a volatile stock.
Volatile up.
Well,
There's been a bit of bouncing. I mean, that, to be fair, so this peak and this peak is probably tying back to the liquidity cycle, which I won't go into now. But
I don't. Looking at that, I don't feel like now's a particularly great time to buy.
I'm not saying buy now. I mean, I was telling people, I was telling to people when I personally bought down here, and I didn't get a platform until about here. But when it dropped down to about that level there, that's when I was telling people, for God's sakes, get in on this. Which is, I suppose it's done 3x since then, and Bitcoin has done about 5x since then. So yes, Elon went all in on Trump, and it has worked out rather nicely for Elon. Oh, Samson, you're missing one of my links. You're missing my best link. Quickly add in my excellent link that's in the document, because I wanted to bring you an unparalleled source for my next part of this story. I want to reach out to the gold standard of verified information, top flight, MSM, quality. Basically, it's BBC Pidgin. So here's BBC Pidgin talking about our next point. Oh, actually, I forgot my joke. Tesla has been unburdened by what has been. Right, I'll remember it for the next one. Bitcoin. BBC Pidgin here reporting... why Bitcoin price they rise after Donald Trump victory for US elections. The price of the Bitcoin don rise over $80,000 for the first time ever after Donald Trump victory for the US election last week. E-commerce the Republicans close to overall control of Congress after them secured the presidency and a majority for the Senate. On the campaign trail, the president-elect pledged to make US the crypto capital of the planet.
Thanks for that, Jar Jar Binks.
So cringeworthy, isn't it?
Well, I thought if I got that in, I can't be accused of not, citing mainstream sources. Basically, even though mainstream sources do not understand this shit. So,
how would Rastafarians have been able to understand this podcast if you didn't read that? Now they understand.
Well, I've just massively increased our audience. Because there's 1 billion people in Africa, and they can follow along with the podcast of the Lotus Eaters now. Right. So, what factors might be driving it? Well, there is the whole liquidity cycle thing, which I talk about on Brokenomics that I won't go into here, which is overall quite good. But basically, well, let's have a look at what Senator Loomis says. Senator Cynthia Loomis says, we are going to build a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now, what that would likely look like is the US acquiring 1 million Bitcoins over 5 years, which comes out as something like 550 Bitcoin a day.
Wow.
Well, they only mine 450 a day.
So that means if you own Bitcoin, the price is going to skyrocket because the demand's going to skyrocket because the US government's buying it. Obviously, the taxpayers footing the bill here, as they always do.
I mean, bear in mind at the moment, it's only been private individuals who've been buying it. As of earlier this year, the big money started to arrive. So BlackRock, for example. So BlackRock have got a Bitcoin ETF, which has now surpassed their gold ETF. They've accumulated 35 billion something in their Bitcoin ETF.
Aren't there some other governments that have got
El Salvador?
Iceland or El Salvador?
El Salvador does.
Some Central South American ones, or was it Iceland bought a bunch?
It was El Salvador.
What's the? Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, go ahead.
I don't know whether you know this. What would the strategic aspect of this be then, other than it's good to have Bitcoin? Is there more layers to this than what it seems?
In that context, yes. It just means it's a part of their economic strategy.
Well, it is
to have a reserve of Bitcoin. That's all that really means, right?
Effectively, It just becomes part of the balance sheet of the US.
Okay, so it sort of is what it seems then.
Yeah, but you want them to have something which they're not just going to print to infinity, because there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins.
The main thing I think this does is not just... Obviously, it drives the price of Bitcoin on any sort of Bitcoin exchange, but also it lends it even more legitimacy. right? Because there's still lots of naysayers about all sorts of crypto, right?
Yeah.
There's still lots and lots of naysayers in the world.
Well,
this sort of thing, if the US government basically say no, it's cool.
Well, I mean,
essentially saying it's real, we respect it. Then confidence. It's about confidence, right?
I mean, that argument is very weak now. I mean, people still try and make it, but I mean, now you've got sort of BlackRock and Fidelity and all these other large firms buying into it. It's very difficult to make the argument that it's just some fly-by-night thing. But if the US government starts buying it,
right? You can't do better than that, really. Can you?
Not really. No.
I think a better indicator is that BlackRock have so much money invested in it because they're the biggest
It's funny
fish.
that people like JP Morgan Chase or whoever try and do their own cryptocurrency, and it doesn't really seem to. Nothing else is close to Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of other look reasonably interesting, but I won't talk about them here. But no, it is pretty much just Bitcoin.
Yeah,
pretty much. The Dems were seriously offside on this issue because, I mean, put it this way: more Americans own crypto than own a dog. Now, would you go into an election kind of low-key hinting that you're going to ban dogs? That probably wouldn't work out.
Maybe in the Middle East. I mean, it's working for Turkey.
I was say, in Bahrain maybe, but
yes, yes.
No, right, yeah.
Nominal prices in Turkish lira have not looked good.
Yeah, their economy is not looking good.
No,
all that dog genocide they're doing.
It's not strong. And a number of senior aides in Harris's campaign have said, "Yeah, we kind of screwed the pooch on the whole Bitcoin thing." Because
I see what you did there.
Yeah, so I mean, it's got to the point now. I think the risk of it being banned or just punted away by government, I mean, especially under Trump, has gone to pretty much zero. If anything, it's just going to be a question of when it ends up on the US balance sheet. So yes, all rather positive for Bitcoin. You could say that Bitcoin has become unburdened by what has been. Had to slip that in one last time. On your point, one of you raised the point about governments buying it. Germany, here's a good example. Germany sold 50,000 Bitcoins at 50,000 a share, 50,000 a Bitcoin. They did that earlier this year. It's basically cost them about $1.5 billion at this point by doing that. I don't want to say it's the worst thing that Germany's ever done, especially not after
ever.
Especially after Bo's first segment, but I think it's up there. It is up there on the list.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's easy to say in hindsight. I mean, I followed Bitcoin pretty closely, and 50,000 isn't a terrible place to sell. It's probably way better than what Gordon Brown sold our bullion reserves at.
Well, that is true.
He announced it beforehand.
It's easy to say in hindsight when the market goes up, say, oh, well, if you just held on till now, you would have made X amount more. But 50 grand's not a bad spot to have.
I suppose
62 now.
I suppose to say you could make the claim it could be worse. But mind you, some of us had the foresight when it was at 1,600 to push it as heavily as we could. So
you should diamond hands Bitcoin.
Yes, Germany should have bought a subscription to Brokenomics, and then it wouldn't have cost them $1.5 billion. And the other one you mentioned was El Salvador. So their Bitcoin pile, they probably made a profit of about 100 million on it so far. And 100 million at nation state level, you might think that's small, but El Salvador is a small and very, very poor country.
Well, also, the notion of having a currency that makes you money rather than the opposite. The way that currency works at the minute, I think is actively detrimental. This sort of the way that.
You think about the amount of currency debasement that there has been since the pandemic or the plandemic, and put it this way: imagine working 9 to 5 for 50 years.
I don't have to,
and
I will do probably.
Imagine, yes. I mean, think forward. Another 40 years. You spent 50 years working 9 to 5, and you keep your money in fiat currency, and the Fed then prints 40% of the money supply in the space of a couple of years. Basically, it has inflated away 20 years of your 50 years' work.
It's a good thing I had nothing to begin with, then, eh?
That is what holding your money in fiat currency does. Now, if you think that buying, and I'm not suggesting buying at this point. I was suggesting buying 18 months ago. To be clear, I am not trying to push anybody to buy any of these assets at these time. I think we're in the hold and enjoy phase of the cycle rather than the accumulate phase. So I'm not telling anyone to buy this, but if you find the idea of buying into Bitcoin a bit scary, there is a company called MicroStrategy, run by Michael Saylor, and he effectively turned his company into a Bitcoin reserve or hedge fund, possibly. And basically what he's been doing is he's very clever. Basically, he issues debt in fiat and then uses that to buy Bitcoin and then uses the later profits from that to pay off the debt after it's gone up. So he's effectively got an infinite money glitch
in the economy.
Assuming Bitcoin
That's good, yeah.
infinitely goes up.
Well, over the full cycle, I mean, it's never not. And with the way things are looking now, I mean, he's massively up, having done this so far. I mean, there's a bit more to the MicroStrategy infinite money glitch than that, but that is ultimately.
Well, I imagine Trump's going to patch it as well, because the American dollar is probably going to be worth a little bit more because he's not going to continue massive money printing.
I mean, he may be inflationary, and that could be part of what's driving market. But basically, you need to get the size of the debt down. You need to get the deficit down.
Of course,
yeah. Be a little bit bearish about Bitcoin, but now's definitely not the time to buy some. If you've got any sort of, well, diamond hands it for a start, but if you're not going to do that, now's the time to probably sell a bit. I think we're in this bit of a bubble, if anything. If you look at, if you can get the Bitcoin price up, you'll see how volatile that is. Of course, of course, the trend is up.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, the diagonal line across it is pretty steep. I mean, now's one of the worst times to buy any.
I certainly would not be selling at this point, and I'll go into it in fact I'll do the next Brokenomics on this. I'll give everyone a market update of what I think is going on. But the liquidity taps have only just started to really turn up, global liquidity, and that's essentially what drives markets and Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a very good responder to global liquidity, and I'm pretty sure it's going to run into the autumn of next year. So I won't be selling any.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, as I say,
until maybe I'll think about it summer of next year.
As I say, diamond hands forever, but not a good time to.
Oh
buy.
no, you want to take some lifestyle chips off, certainly, but I mean I'm not selling today. Most certainly, there's no chance of that. But anyway, Michael Saylor is and his MicroStrategy is a way that you can buy it in an ISA or some tax efficient vehicle if you particularly wanted to, and he's been very good at explaining why it's a superior bet to holding depreciating fiat currency. And the next clip is him explaining this with the help of a lovely lady. So, Samson, can we play the next video with sound, please? Full screen, make it large. This is the explanation coming. I do hope you're watching, not listening.
But most of the people who are buying assets at some point want to sell the assets at a profit.
People that use fiat currency as a store of value, we call them poor. We call them poor. People that use
smug mode engaged.
Fiat currency.
Well, I have no assets, so it's difficult to be jubilant.
We call them poor. We call them poor. We call them poor. There's a name for them. We call them poor.
Dance with me, boys.
We call them poor.
It's difficult to dance for something when I am poor.
Okay.
It's mocking me.
I have got some Bitcoin, but it's not a fantastic amount.
Right.
But no, it's always nice to see it go up. Yes. But yeah, remember that you are in the markets. Most people haven't got a pot to piss in. They're not exposed one way or another. So
yes, but you can learn all of that with a £5 subscription to lotuseaters.com and watch Brokenomics.
Thanks for watching, folks. If you'd like to support us, go over to lotuseaters.com and come and support our Christian content creators, such as Calvin Robinson, who does his Common Sense Crusade, in which he pontificates, as it were, about the fact that the church is basically not Christian anymore, and things are just going remarkably down the tubes since we left Christ. I'm not a Christian, but I do consider myself an ally. Also, go over and support us, follow us on lotuseaters_com on X, formerly Twitter, and get notified and updated of everything that we're doing. Thanks for joining us.